Welcome home, Mosaic. Welcome home. If this is your first time, you might not know, but we believe it was kind of a miracle that we even had the opportunity to get this building. But what you don't know, even if you do go here, is it might be a miracle that we got it done in a month. So the amount of man hours that went into this is just ridiculous. We have some of the most amazing volunteers here, people who just spent day and night here, and they don't get paid. They're just here. They just wanted to pour their life into this thing. It's been amazing, and our staff, those poor staff. If you want to show your appreciation, you could buy them a bottle of grape juice or something like that to make them. They need it after this month. They need it. But for real, if you know anybody who volunteered a lot here, man, thank them, because this could not happen without them. I'm not even going to try and list the names because I don't want to forget anybody, but oh my gosh, you know who you are if you spent hours and hours here. So let's pray. Jesus, I thank you so much. Yes. Thank you so much. This is, I think I know what David meant when he said his cup overflows. I'm the cup. Thank you so much, Lord. I thank you for everyone's here. I pray that you would be exalted in this place, Lord. I pray that your spirit would I know you're here, Lord, but I want people to be able to experience it, Lord. Even people who might be here right now who don't even know if they believe in you, Lord. I just pray that you would make yourself real to them. And I pray that our hearts would be open. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right, you can have a seat. Yeah, clap again. Do it. It's good. Good. So y'all are the second service people. We started late, even though it's 11. We used to meet at 10:30. Now we're at 9 and 11. So if you're late to the 11, you have no excuse. It's absurd. So if this is your first time here, always want to let people know. If you're watching online, by the way, hi, how you guys doing? Wish you were here. So just to kind of tell you a little bit about myself, if you don't know me, first thing I always want people to know about me is, Mosaic already knows what I'm going to say, but back in high school, I hit a three-pointer over. They have to know. It's important. I hit a three-pointer over LeBron James, okay? We went to high school at the same time. It's my claim to fame. Let me have it. And one of the youth was making fun of me between services, and she's like, you peaked already. You peaked already. I'm like, okay. And she's like, you hit a three over what, like Michael Jordan? I'm like, okay. Youth, that would be even cooler, but no. So I loved sports growing up. My best game in high school was a 31 points against St. Thomas Aquinas. And I want to talk to you about that today. The lights are going off. They're like, no, you're not allowed to do that. I'm gonna pull an Uncle Rico on you and relive my glory days. No, but for real, I do want to tell you a little bit about that. So I only remember three things from that game. Corner three I missed in the second half, rimmed out. And coach was mad at me for even taking it. I hadn't missed a shot all game. He was still acting all frustrated with me. That was nice. That's the first thing I remember. Second thing I remember is a free throw I missed. And the third thing I remember is another free throw I missed. Those are the only three things I remember. The only three. I don't remember any of the makes. I remember riding the bus back home and thinking, man, you could have had 36 points. Could have been your high, you know. One of the assistant coaches came up to me after the game and he showed me that I was 11 for 11 inside the three-point line. Like I made every shot inside the three-point line. But I can't remember any of those. I only remember my misses. Does anybody do that? Where you have something good in your life, but you can only focus on the parts that's missing? Like your life is like a puzzle that's almost all the way put together. There's a ton of really good pieces, a ton of interesting things, a bunch of colors, a bunch of great stuff, but your eye is drawn to the parts that aren't there. Does anybody else do that? Can only remember the misses. Can't seem to celebrate the good. Can't seem to enjoy the win. Can't seem to celebrate the victories in my life. And if that's you, if you can resonate at all with that, this is for you today. I want to look at a story in the Bible where if someone refuses to celebrate. It's not just that they struggle to celebrate, they refuse to celebrate, and that costs them greatly, and it costs the people around them greatly. The guy's name's Saul. So if you're grew up in church, you know that Saul's kind of a bad guy. Story involves his son, whose name's Jonathan. Good name, right? So give you a backstory. Jonathan has this massive victory. He takes a leap of faith that he shouldn't have took. It was super risky, and he takes on, and God just blesses it, man. The Israelites were a massive underdog in this battle. They had no business winning. If you had put money on them, you would have won a lot because they had no business winning. They were fighting these people called the Philistines. The Philistines were just owning them. So bad that the people of Israel were hiding in bushes. Some of the guys actually traded teams. They were fighting for the Philistines. I didn't even know you're allowed to do that. They're like, hey, I'm going to fight for you guys now. It was that bad. But Jonathan's act of faith just totally transformed the battle. God blesses it. And in the story, you can kind of feel this momentum shift from this oppression, this kind of downtrodden, to the Israelites just kind of take off. You can feel it. They start taking territory. God starts moving, and this is an amazing thing. They win a huge victory, bigger than 31 points against an obscure high school team. Bigger than that. Huge victory that they win. And then I want to show you two verses that happen right after this huge victory. Huge. These verses are back to back. 1 Samuel 14. 23 and 24. So on that day, the Lord saved Israel. The battle moved beyond Beth-aven. Now the Israelites were in distress that day. That day. By the way, that's the same day. It wasn't next week. It wasn't next year. The same day, the Lord saved them, and they were in distress. They had a great victory, but they were not happy. They had good things happen, but they weren't enjoying them. They had reasons for joy, but they weren't joyful that day. You ever had a day like that? Where it's supposed to be joyful, where it's supposed to be a reason for your soul to be uplifted, but something seems to be preventing you from enjoying it, from celebrating it? That's where the people of Israel are. They won, but they're in distress. So let's look at why. The rest of verse 24 says this. Because Saul had bound the people under an oath, saying, cursed be anyone who eats food before evening comes, before I have avenged myself on my enemies. So none of the troops tasted food. So Saul stops them. He cursed anybody who eats before the war is over. He's more focused, he's more focused on the battles they haven't won yet than the battle they just won. He's more focused on that. Now listen, I grew up in church, and when I read the Bible, I like to associate with the heroes. I don't know if you guys do this. Maybe I have something wrong with me, or I'm conceited or arrogant or something, but I like to be David in the story. I like to imagine myself walking across a field to fight a giant, or I like to be Daniel. I don't like to associate with the bad characters in the Bible, but I got to tell you, in this story, Saul kind of resonates with me a little bit. Usually I think Saul's an idiot, and I don't want to be anything like him. And not that I do want to be like him here, but I kind of get it. He doesn't want to let himself celebrate the victory they just won. And I think he's got some reasons for that. So if you struggle with this, I want to share with you the three reasons I think Saul struggled or refused to celebrate the victories, and maybe they'll resonate with you as well. So here's the first reason I think Saul struggled to celebrate the victory that they had just won. Number one, the more progress you make, the further you see you have to go. The more progress you make, the further you see you have to go. And that's kind of paradoxical, right? Because you would think that the more progress you make, the better you'd feel. But a lot of times that's not the case. And if you've ever tried to do anything big in your life, if you ever tried to do something that takes more than just a day to do, like had a life's mission, a life's goal, you know that as you start to get into it, you start to make some progress, it can actually weirdly be discouraging because you start to see just how far there is to go, even though you've made it as far as you have. It's almost like climbing the top of one mountain, like pulling yourself up onto the peak, and then your view is another mountain, right? And it's a little bit taller than the one that you're on. The more progress you make, the further you see you have to go. So see, Saul won the battle, but he also saw how many more battles that would take to win the war. So have you ever heard of the 4 stages of competence? The 4 stages of competence? This is good. So it'll help you if you want to be competent in things. I think you do. You want to be competent, right? So here they are. Hopefully I'll say them right. They're kind of a tongue twister. Stage 1 is unconscious incompetence. Stage 2 is conscious incompetence. Stage 3 is conscious competence. And then stage 4 is unconscious competence. So let me back up, catch you up here, because that was a lot, right? A lot of conscious competence. Okay. Stage 1, unconscious incompetence, is you don't know what you don't know. You're an idiot, but you don't know you're an idiot, okay? This is great. You might know some people like this, right? They just kind of live in stage 1 everywhere in their life. But when you just start off doing something, like you don't know what you don't know, right? You don't know how hard it is. You don't know what the experts know. You don't even know the beginning of what the experts know. You look at something and you think, oh, that looks easy, and you have no idea what all goes into it, right? So unconscious incompetence is where we all kind of start. And then you go, that's stage 1. Stage 2 is conscious incompetence, which means you now know you're an idiot. This is actually, believe it or not, growth, even though it doesn't feel like it, right? So you start off not knowing, and then in stage 2, you bump into the edges of your ignorance, and you realize, oh my goodness, I don't know what I don't know, and now I'm starting to get an idea of how big this thing that I'm trying to do is. That can be a discouraging stage. And then stage 3 is where you are conscious, competent. So you're starting to get good at it, but it takes a lot of mental power to do it. And then stage 4 is unconscious competence, where you don't even have to think about it anymore. So, you're driving for 20 minutes and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, how did I even get here? Because you're unconscious competent at driving. Some of you are, some of you are not. That's okay. But that's kind of the way the stages go. The real sticking point is at stage 2, right? Because you go from not knowing that you're bad at something to realizing that maybe you kind of are bad at something, and it feels like you went backwards. But really, that's growth. To realize that how big the thing is that you're trying to do. Just for my own, I mean, I've been a pastor for 10 years, and the first year that I was a pastor, I thought we were going to explode, we were going to grow like crazy. It was unconscious incompetence. I was stupid and did not know it, and I thought that all this stuff was going to happen. And then through the year, I think I might still be on stage 2, where I just know how dumb I am. And that's how college worked for me too, by the way. College, I feel like I didn't learn anything. I think I just realized how dumb I was in college. That was a step though for me, because it was a little bit of a humbling. So this is a difficult thing, and this idea can prevent us from celebrating even small victories, because we just get the sense that we have so far to go. So you are allowing the road ahead to prevent you from celebrating the road behind. And I just want to say, man, don't let seeing how far you have to go prevent you from celebrating how far you've come. So that's the first reason Saul struggled. Second reason Saul struggled, Saul didn't want to celebrate his victories, and maybe you do too, is you think you have to accomplish everything before you can celebrate anything. You think you have to accomplish everything before you can celebrate anything. This is that completionist, that perfectionist mentality, right? If you're a gamer, you have to do every side quest. You have to unlock every skin. Every single thing in the game has to say 100% before you'll move on to a new game. This is also like that type A person. If you're type A, if you're competitive, this is you. You don't want to celebrate anything until you've accomplished everything. And this is Saul. Saul's like, hey, this is awesome that we won that battle, but look at all these battles ahead. Well, oh, that's cool. We won a battle, but we have a war to fight here. We got a complete victory that we have to achieve. And Saul doesn't want to laugh. He doesn't want to joke. He doesn't even want to eat until he's finished this fight. And I get that. I struggle with this. When I graduated college, I didn't go to the graduation ceremony because I knew I was going to go get my master's degree. So I was like, why would I celebrate? I'm just going to keep going, right? And then when I got my master's degree, I didn't go to that ceremony either, not because I planned on getting my doctorate, although Dr. Barton does sound kind of cool. I viewed getting my master's degree not as an accomplishment itself, but as a setup to getting accomplishments. You know what I'm saying? Because for me, school is like a preparation. So I'm like, ooh, you got done preparing for something. I don't know. I just had this weird, I refused to let myself celebrate that thing because, again, I felt like it wasn't complete. I wasn't done yet. But I could make that argument about everything. You know that? I could make it about this day right here. We have a building. Woohoo! I could mock that. So what? The building's a tool in God's hand. We're here to reach people. We're here to reach the city of Wadsworth. That's why we're here. I don't care about four walls. I could rain on my own parade. It's already raining, inside and outside. It's raining in here. But I have to learn to not do that. So something I heard this week that really helped me with this. If you go back to the beginning when God created the earth, 6 days, right? If you look at how God had a rhythm to it, he created on the first day, and what did he say? It's good. Second day, it's good. Third day, it's good. He actually, at every stage, was stopped to pause to celebrate what was done. Even though the universe was not done yet, even though the project was not complete, he allowed himself to celebrate each step along the way. And if God can do that, maybe I should get over my own ego of saying I have to be done before I can celebrate. No, God does that. So if you struggle with this idea of having to complete something before you can celebrate even the steps in between, no, God didn't even do that. God didn't even do that. Stop letting the next mountain you have to climb stop you from celebrating the mountain that you are standing on right now. That's the second thing. Third thing. Third reason Saul did not want to celebrate his victory. And this one you might struggle with. He didn't celebrate because he feared losing the thing that he was going to celebrate. And maybe that's you. Maybe you fear losing the thing that you're going to celebrate. He's allowed this fear to grip his heart that even though he won the battle, he's going to lose the war. Saul did this repeatedly in his life. He was king, but he was always afraid somebody's going to take the crown. He was winning battles, but he was always afraid he was going to lose the next one. Saul lived his life in perpetual fear of losing what God had given him, and that fear caused him to do things that actually caused him to lose it. It's ironic. He created the very thing that he was afraid of because of his fear. He couldn't enjoy what he had because that fear haunted him. Is that you? Do you live your life perpetually worried that you're going to lose the good things that God's given you? Can I just point something out? Like, if you're not going to celebrate the things that God's given you, if you're not going to enjoy the things that God has given you, what's the point of having them? What's the point of having them? If you refuse to celebrate, then who even cares if you lose it? Because honestly, mentally, you've kind of already lost it, right? So you've allowed Satan to steal the joy of the thing that God has given you. So emotionally and spiritually, you've already lost the thing. Don't let Satan do that. Don't let Satan steal your joy with fear of something that might happen that hasn't happened yet. You live in reality. You don't live in some other future terrifying version of reality. By the way, if God wants to give you something, only God can decide to take it away anyways. That's comforting, isn't it? It's not like Satan can sneak in and God be like, ooh, I wasn't paying attention. It got me there. Like, that's not going to happen, right? God is sovereign. He's in control. So Saul does not want to celebrate. And those might be some of the reasons maybe you struggle to celebrate things in your life. So let's see what happens as a result of this. Let's look at the rest of the story. It's in Samuel 14, starting in verse 25. So no one ate anything all day. Even though they had all found honeycomb on the ground in the forest, they didn't dare touch the honey because they all feared the oath they had taken. So Saul not only deprives himself of celebrating the victory, he deprives everyone else of celebrating. They found something to eat, something sweet. They could have really celebrated with this. They could have really enjoyed this honey and allowed themselves to replenish themselves before going on to the rest of the battle. But Saul didn't allow it. And this is just an important little side note. If you're a leader at work, a leader in the home, man, you set the tone. You got to know that your actions, your decisions, your attitudes affect everybody else around you. That you're not just going to set the tone for yourself, you're going to be setting the tone for others as well. And that's what happens here. Saul sets the temperature. Everyone else kind of grows cold. When they could have been celebrating, they weren't. Verse 27. But Jonathan had not heard his father's command. He dipped the end of his stick into a piece of honeycomb, and he ate the honey. After he'd eaten it, he felt refreshed. Go figure. But one of the men saw him and said, "Your father made the army take a strict oath that anyone who eats food today will be cursed. That is why everyone is weary and faint." So Jonathan didn't know, did it anyways. Now he's finding out about this oath that his father made everybody take. Verse 29, here's his response. "My father has made trouble for us all," Jonathan exclaimed. "A command like that only hurts us. See how refreshed I am after I've eaten a little bit of honey. If the men had been allowed to eat freely from the food they had found among their enemies, think how many more Philistines we could have killed." So Jonathan disagrees with Dad here and says, man, we shouldn't have done it this way. So I gave you 3 reasons why you might struggle to celebrate in your life. I want to give you 3 reasons why you should celebrate in your life. 1, and Jonathan points it out here in these verses, your overall victory will be smaller if you don't celebrate the small steps. Your overall victory will be smaller if you don't celebrate the small steps in between. You think holding your breath to the very end's the best way. You're going to find out you'll run out of air before you get there. You'll have greater victory in the war if you learn to celebrate each battle. Celebration acknowledges the progress. You're allowed to acknowledge your progress. Celebration honors God for how far He's brought you. It sets you up to win the next battle after you've won the last one. Don't allow your overall victory to be smaller because you're refusing to celebrate the smaller steps. Now, let me guard from an overcorrection. While I think some of us in this room struggle from not wanting to celebrate until we completed the whole thing, some of us in the room maybe struggle with kind of the opposite, excessive celebration maybe, or premature celebration where you lose a pound and you go buy a dozen donuts and you're like, yay, like I did a thing. And then the problem is if you don't, the order is you win a battle, you celebrate. You win a battle, you celebrate. You accomplish something, you celebrate. The order is not, well, I'm halfway there, I'll celebrate because I'm tired of no, you'll kill the very thing you're trying to accomplish if you celebrate too early, if you have a premature celebration or excessive celebration. So you really got to guard against that. We got to find a sweet spot here where you find a rhythm and you say, hey, I won a battle, now I can celebrate. I'm going to win another battle, I celebrate. You don't celebrate halfway through the fight. That doesn't make any sense. If somebody's got a sword out, you don't, hey, can you stop a second? I got to get this honey real quick. Like, no, you got to win the fight first and then you can celebrate. Got to find a rhythm, and that leads to our second one, our second reason why you should celebrate, because you'll crash, because your pace isn't sustainable if you don't celebrate the victories that you have in your life. You know what happens right after this battle? We're not going to read it, but when they finally do win and they're allowed to eat, they end up breaking the Levitical law. They end up eating meat with blood still in it, which is something that they're not supposed to do according to the law. But they're so ravenous from not having eaten that they kill animals and they just start eating without even cooking their food. They're just so hungry. So they end up crashing at the end because their pace was not sustainable. So I just want to ask you, like, what if the reason you're losing in your life is not because you're weak, but it's because you're drained, because you haven't allowed yourself to celebrate the small victories in your life? What if that's the reason? It's not that you're weak. You just haven't found a rhythm here. And God made rhythms. God created rhythms when He created the world, right? Day and night, tide goes in, tide goes out. You breathe in, you breathe out. That's the way God created life, right? There's a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to fast and a time to feast, a time to work and a time to rest, a time to cry and a time to celebrate. There's a rhythm to life. And if you neglect the rhythm, you will drain your strength. You will drain your strength. It's not the way God intended you to live. The third reason you should celebrate in your life is just one word. Just one word. Jesus. It's a good answer, right? That's the church answer. All the church people clapped. Hold on, before I do this. Two services is weird, man. I've never done this. It's been a minute. So I was a church kid growing up. So I would have clapped for that too, because anytime you say Jesus is the answer, you're like, yes, I'm supposed, like you're just trained to do this, right? So I did the whole church thing. The weird part about me in growing up in church, I did the whole thing. I was there every Sunday, ate the stale goldfish crackers, sung Father Abraham has many sons has Father Abraham. Y'all remember that song? If you're a church kid, you do. I remember carrying chairs and trying to impress the girls in youth group, because you can carry a lot of chairs. Girls think that's cool, totally. But the weird part was I never felt like I fit in. And it made no sense, because I believed, and I was there. I was a part of it my whole life. There's no reason to not feel that way, but I just didn't feel like I belonged. I believed, but I didn't feel like I belonged. And it's weird, because God has a sense of humor, and then he calls me to be a pastor of church. And I've never felt like I belonged in church. It's super weird. But now I kind of realize that the reason God had me experience that is because he wanted me to be a part of creating a church for those people. That's why we have this big saying, and it's plastered 12 feet big on a wall out there, that we're a church for people who don't think church is for them. And I wanted to clarify this because I think it's really important, because I think a lot of people, they look at that saying and they think, oh, they must be a church for like atheists and addicts and that stuff, which is certainly true. I mean, if you're not a Christian, we are so excited you're here, and this is a place to be able to ask questions and work through that stuff. It really is. But it's not just that. I want to create a church for anybody who's ever felt like, hey, I believe all this stuff, but I just feel like I don't belong sometimes in church. Like that's a big part of our heart here at Mosaic. We want to be a place where even if you've spent your whole life, yes, I believe, yes, I trust in Jesus, yes, I do all those things, but I've never felt like I fit in a church. Our goal is to be a church where maybe for the first time, you can actually feel like you do belong. And Jesus is like a really big piece of that. So let me tell you, since I did grow up in church, and I know some of y'all struggle with this as church people, and maybe even if you're not a church person, you struggle with this. I think I know the deeper reason why you struggle to celebrate in your life. The deeper reason. Yeah, all that surface stuff, you're afraid you're going to lose it, or you're an achiever, so you want to keep accomplishing things. Yeah, all that's true. But I think I know the deeper reason. The deeper reason you struggle to celebrate the little victories in your life, or struggle to celebrate really at all in your life, is because of your perception of God. It's your perception of God. You view God as this grumpy old man with impossible standards that's somehow burned in here. And maybe it is from a church experience, or maybe it is from something you've heard, but for some reason you have this impression of God that he has a scowl on his face and a lightning bolt in his hand, and he is just waiting for you to step one toe out of line, and he's going to zap you. Your perception of God is that you can never do enough to please him. You can never do enough to please him. A morose and miserable monarch, frustrated and frivolous father, a petty and prowling policeman. That even on your best day, God just tolerates you. That's the best you get. You knock it out of the park and God's like, yeah, that's what you think. But man, the idea of a grumpy God. So at best, that doesn't fuel joy in your life. If you think the all-powerful God of the universe is kind of scowling at you all the time, how in the world are you going to have joy in your life? And at worst, it steals your joy, because even in your best moments, you have this lurking feeling that God is like displeased with you or doesn't even like you. It would steal your joy. But I want you to know that is not God. And I hate that that's what's been ingrained in you. I hate it. You need to know that God is the most joyful being in existence. Do you realize that God is the most and try to imagine the most joyful being in existence. That's who God is. Get this scowl out of your mind. I mean, think about it. Would a grumpy God come down to earth and die for you? Does that make any sense? Do you really think as Jesus was going to the cross, he's like, well, I guess I'll die for these idiots. Do you really think that's how Jesus thought? No, I can prove it to you. He didn't. I don't have this verse on the screens, but it's Hebrews 12:2. Look what this says. Looking at Jesus, the originator and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, he sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Why did he go to the cross? Because he joyfully wanted to save you. He wasn't begrudgingly doing it. He was joy-filled in saving you, enduring shame, enduring being murdered. He was filled with joy to save you. God loves you. God likes you. God likes you. He died for you. You aren't perfect. You know that, right? You're a sinner. I don't know you, but I know you have not batted 1,000 in your life. You have screwed up. You have major screw-ups. You have minor screw-ups. You probably yelled at your kids this morning. No, nobody. I prayed for a smooth morning for everybody, so if you did have a smooth morning, you're welcome. But you've messed up. But think about that. You have screwed up so much in your life. Did God send a lightning bolt? No. He sent his son to die for you. That was his response to your screw up. His response to your screw up is, I'm going to come down there and I'm going to pay for that. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to bring them to me. They can't come to me, so I'm going to go to them. You have the wrong perception of God if you think of a scowl when you think of God. He is a loving and joyous Father. He is a benevolent and hearty King. He is a fierce protector of those he loves. God is the most joyful being in existence, and he delights in you. He delights in you. Look at Psalm 149:4. For the Lord delights in his people. He smiles when he looks at you, and he crowns the humble with victory. He likes that. So in the morning, a lot of mornings, I get to be the one to wake up our little 1-year-old because she gets to go to the babysitters. So I open the door and her door creaks. I should probably fix that because the moment I open the door, she starts rustling around in her little bed. And I pick her up and she's got hair everywhere, giantly full diaper. Probably too much information, but if you're a parent, you know. And I pick her up and I get her little blanket in here and she just suction cups to me and just, because she's too tired to be bad, so it's nice, just gonna sit here. And I look forward to that. I look forward to waking her up and holding her. What if that's how God thinks about you? Can you imagine God standing over you just every morning, just waiting for your eyes to flutter open and for him to just delight in you? What if that's how he views you? That, you have to realize that is it. That he created you unique and he just delights in your being. God likes you. Man, somebody needs to hear that today. God is joyous. He wants to celebrate. Let me prove it to you even more. This guy, Jesus. So if this is your first time here, and maybe you don't believe yet, that's cool. Full disclosure, I'm not trying to fool you. I definitely believe in Jesus. I'm a pastor, I have to, right? But I just wanted you to know, I'm not trying to trick you. I really do believe Jesus, was and is, the God of the universe. And he really did come down and die for the sins of the world, including yours. I really believe that. I hope you can kind of tell. Guys don't jump around on stage like this one does, unless they really believe what they're talking about, what they're singing about, okay? This is real to us. You can think we're crazy, but that's what we believe. But this Jesus guy, he was also the most joyous human being to ever live. Do you realize that? And I know somebody's going to quote, he's a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. Yes, when he marched toward that cross, he carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. He sure did. But man, if you look at the whole story, if you read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you don't find some grumpy guy walking around. So if you look at, in the Bible, only one time is it recorded that Jesus fasted. Only once. It's 40 days. That's a long one, right? But only one time is it recorded. But go ahead and leaf through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Tell me how many times Jesus ate with his friends. Tell me how many parties he was at. Tell me how many times he's around people celebrating things. It's a lot. It's a lot. He did it so much. Jesus partied enough to be accused of being a glutton and a drunkard. How much do you have to go to a party for people to say, this guy eats a lot and he drinks a lot? You know what I'm saying? That rumor doesn't just spring out, right? And he taught on it. Do you know Jesus taught about parties? People don't even think about this. He did. He actually told a little story about how to have a party and who to invite. Did you know that? And he even talked about how to go to parties. He did. He talked about where to sit and how to do all that. You social anxiety people should find this, and you're like, this is important. I need to know how to go to parties now, right? This is good for some of you back there. I love making the introverts sit up on stage with me. They love it too. They love it too. But Jesus lived a joyful life. Jesus lived a joyful life, and he said in John 10:10 that he came to give us life and life to the full. Jesus died on the cross for your sins, and he wants to give you an eternity in heaven with him for sure, but he also wants you to have life now. Now. He died so that you could live. So there's two action items I want to give. Number one, if you already believe in Jesus, maybe today you just need to resolve to get better at celebrating victories in your life. You know, to let your heart open up, to let your heart praise him for the little things, to let your heart enjoy the good steps that you take in your life. Stop holding your breath. Stop acting like you're some kind of tough guy. I'll celebrate when I'm dead. Stop that. Allow yourself to celebrate the small steps in your life. But for some of you, maybe your big step today is you need to start a relationship with the creator of the universe. Today could be that day. You need to give your life to Jesus. And I know that's a wild thing to say, especially if you're not a believer. You're like, this dude lived 2,000 years ago. What in the world does he have to do with me? I don't know. I guess I just want to ask, is your life fulfilling? Do you feel like there's something missing? My guess is yes. The answer is the thing that's missing is Jesus. The thing that's missing is a relationship with the God of the universe. Your soul was created to have that, and you don't, and you need it. So I just want to suggest a really simple prayer, nothing complicated. It's just a couple of words. Jesus, I give you my life. There's more to it than that. A relationship with God is going to be more complicated than that, but that's the starting point where you just kind of open your hands up and you say, Jesus, I give this thing to you. I've been managing it, and it's not going so great. I need to give this to you. Jesus, I give you my life. You can pray that right now, right where you are. And man, I believe, you know what's crazy? I believe that something happens in the spiritual. You can't see it. You might not even fully be able to feel it. But I believe that if you pray that prayer, that the God of the universe will move in your soul and something will happen. Your life will change. Your eternal destiny will change. Simple prayer, prayed in truth. Change everything. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to have everything figured out. You don't got to understand every aspect of religion. You just need to know that something's missing, and it's a relationship with God. So I'm going to pray and let the worship team get back up here. Pray with me. Jesus, thank you so much that you are a joyful God. Thank you that you're not that God with a scowl on your face all the time, Lord. Thank you so much. I pray for anybody in here who that's the image they have in their head of you, Lord. I pray that you would just sear that one out of their mind, that they would see your smile, that they would feel your acceptance, that they would know that Jesus dying on the cross is all the evidence they need, that you love them and you like them and you delight in them and you want to spend eternity with them. Pray for the person who struggles to celebrate things in their life, Lord, that you'd open up their heart, Lord, melt that crust on their heart that prevents them from being able to enjoy you and enjoy the good things you've given them. I pray for the person sitting here right now who has never given their life to you before, Lord. You would make yourself real to them right now in this place, Lord, in some way. Let them know that you are here and you love them and that you died for them. Be present with us, Jesus. In your name I pray. Amen.